The most disrespected person in America is the black woman. The most unprotected person in America is the black woman. And the most neglected person in America is the black woman. This is a quote from the 1962 speech given on May 22nd from freedom fighter and civil rights activist Malcolm X, which will segue me into my speech titled "One Oppression is Not the Same as the Other," in which I will be explaining to you why misogynoir is inherently worse and more harmful to its affected community than Eurocentric misogyny. But what is misogynoir, you might ask? Well, misogynoir is a very specific type of oppression that black women face. It would be great if you would thank you. So today is the very specific type of oppression that black women face, as it mixes both sexism and anti-blackness. So what will be first on today's agenda is we will learn the difference between misogyny and misogynoir and what makes misogynoir worse than its counterpart. So, what is the difference? Well, as coined by Dr. Moya Bailey, a specific type of oppression that black women experience, often characterized by a combination of anti-black racism and sexism. What does that mean and how does it present itself? Well, the first and most major way that misogynoir presents itself is within the weaponization and inherent violence it presents against black women in every aspect of life. The most common being is that it's oftentimes there's a metaphor that doctors are to black women as cops are to black men, as black women have a 4 times higher mortality rate than white women and are 2 times more likely to die from avoidable maternal conditions, as we see presented to us in this graphic here. The next thing that we have to look at are the domestic violence ratios that present themselves in the black community. Black women are 4 times more likely to be victims of domestic violence and 2 times less likely to report it. This is due to an inherent teaching that as a black woman, calling the police will lead to police brutality against the black man that is harming you, which is an inherent teaching that his life is more important than yours, despite the violence being perpetuated against you. Black women are also 4 times more likely to be a victim of race-based and/or specifically gender-based violence than white women, oftentimes due to and/or by the men of their own community. Black women are 2 times more likely to go to prison either because of or for their male partner. Again, as we can see in this slideshow, as we can see on this slide presented to us via these statistics. You'll also be, at the end of the slideshow, you will also see links to where I got all my references for these statistics if you would like to check them. The next thing that we have to look at is the social warfare that happens to black women within a day-to-day life. And by social warfare, I mean the stereotypes that are oftentimes presented against us as a means to isolate us within day-to-day life. Have you ever seen the show Martin and how Pam and Gina are presented? The character of Pam is a dark-skinned black woman who is presented as angry, who is oftentimes mocked for her hair being quote-unquote nappy. Meanwhile, Gina, her lighter-skinned counterpart, is presented as the object of desire, is presented to be the more beautiful one. That is what we call the angry black woman stereotype, a stereotype oftentimes given to dark-skinned black women as a means to villainize them amongst society. This also presents itself in the way that black men are used to be weaponized against black women, hence the noir within the misogyny. Black men and white women are oftentimes weaponized against black women within this racial patriarchy as a means to isolate them and thus create their oppression first. By getting black men, for example, are 4 times more likely to date outside of their race and are 4 times more likely to marry a white woman than to marry a black woman. However, black women are 2 times less likely to date outside of their race, thus for creating disproportionate racial statistics in regards to marriage, in regards to childbearing, in regards to financial outcomes in one-parent households within the black community, which also perpetuates the stereotype of fathers not being in the lives of black children, which in and of itself perpetuates the single black mother stereotype, the strong black woman stereotype, which is often used as a means to negate the feelings of black women and to turn them into the mammy archetype that we saw so often in slavery and in films like Birth of a Nation, or even in to films like The Great Gatsby, where we see black characters portrayed as the maid even in the 1920s.